Well, hi everybody, and welcome to our special live broadcast, one-on-one with the Adobe Photoshop product managers. We are live from Tampa, Florida, and we are very, very fortunate to have with us today live product managers. Here they
Real
are.
live product managers.
To my left is Bryan O'Neill and Zorana G.
Hello.
They are the people that basically bring us Photoshop. Now, of course, they're engineers. There are other. It's not just you two at Adobe, right? There's other people that work there.
Oh, yes.
It's a bunch, isn't there? It's like 3 office buildings.
Yeah, there's like 10 or so, yeah.
But you guys, you're kind of product managers, so you're kind of overseeing all of the stuff that makes Photoshop happen.
Shepherds.
Yeah. You're shepherds of Photoshop. and I just want to, before we get started, I want to kind of let everybody know what we're doing. So if you're just joining us, so they are here basically to answer your questions. Of course, Photoshop CS6 just launched here recently, and I got to say, it's been a pretty, it's been a super successful launch. I mean, every time Photoshop comes out, you'll have people go, I really, really love this, but this is like the no buts release. Everybody's crazy about CS6. Yeah. I haven't seen any Adobe product that has been met with such love since the first beta of Lightroom.
Right.
That's great to hear.
And this release is really exciting because we have something for everyone. So if you're a designer, if you're a photographer out there, if you're into painting, all these different areas that there's a significant improvement for. So it's exciting. It's very
There's
exciting.
so much cool stuff. Of course, I'm into all kinds of different stuff, and I love it. It's really, really neat. But I wanted to give you guys an opportunity, since they're here in town, to ask them questions directly. And of course, since they're here in town, I'm always like, you got to give us a couple of tips, right, while you're here. Because, I mean, they're product managers. They have all kinds of cool tips. And these are the tips that they won't share with anybody. They keep them secret. I remember learning one tip about Photoshop from Julianne Koss. So Julianne's an evangelist. And she showed me this tip, and it had been on, like, Photoshop CS5. And it had been out for all this time, and she showed me this. I wanted to slap her. I'm like, why don't you ever tell us this stuff? You know what the tip was? It sounds stupid, but it's the coolest little tip. You know, when you open up an image, you look in the layers palette, it's locked, right? You can click on the lock and drag it in the trash, and it unlocks the layer. I'm telling this like you don't know this. But she showed it to me. I'm like, why don't you tell us this stuff? Because you guys have these little secret things. So you're going to show some little secret things today?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're going to show some big stuff and little stuff too?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. But can we start off by this? Because we want to take your questions. You can, of course, send them right there in the feed. We're going to, we'll pitch your questions right to them. But before we get on to that, just a couple quick things. So how do you choose what goes in Photoshop? Like, it's time for a new Photoshop, and now, also, it's time for a new Photoshop like the day you ship one, right? It's like you start thinking about the next one. How do you choose what went in Photoshop 6?
Yeah, so obviously Photoshop serves a whole lot of different people. 22 years into this thing, we've got designers, photographers, 3D pros, illustrators, medicine, architecture, engineering, you name it, right? All sorts of people who use it. We have a lot of things that we want to do for all those different folks. We have things that we want to do that they would never even have thought to ask for. Content or fill. It's not like someone said, can you come up with something that will automatically fill in something and do a bunch of magic and blow my mind. We have a bunch of things that we didn't get to the last time that we want to do. And then, of course, there are projects that people are interested in that maybe it's an entirely new area that we haven't done before. And so we really have to filter all this stuff with how many people we have, how much time we have, what else we need to do. I actually write all about that process in this new issue here.
Hey, that was a great segue. Thank you, Bryan. So, we're the National Association of Photoshop Professionals. Of course, we publish this magazine, Photoshop User Magazine, which comes out 10 times a year. And in it, you've got the feature story. You're both in here. It's called Photoshop CS6 from the inside, and it kind of gives you the view of how it's developed, who's developing, the people behind it, the whole 9 yards. So I talked to you guys at lunch today, and I'm going to go ahead and run that whole article on my blog because I think it's something that everybody would get a kick out of reading. But if you're a subscriber to Photoshop User, of course, go look at your magazine, and you'll get the cover story from Bryan. Every time you see the level of depth of the things that you guys have to decide, I'm always stunned. Because as an end user, I'm just like, hey, can I have this feature? Yeah. But when I realize the thought process and all the people involved in doing what seems like would be just, oh yeah, just flip a switch and it comes up, and you realize.
And I'm sure you have some stuff to add, but I would just say that because of social media, it was really helpful having literally millions of voices help us inform what we wanted to do.
Right.
Because of Facebook and Twitter and things like that, we can bounce stuff off of so many more people than we used to be able to. But you did a ton of research. With,
yeah, absolutely. So in addition to both of your points about doing a lot of customer research, and we have all these different portals, ways of listening to our customers and getting feedback, we also do a lot of customer research. So we might go out and visit customers and actually watch what they're doing. We have a customer research team within Adobe. That's their job to actually do specified studies. And we also bring people into Adobe and have labs where we can watch them work, and kind of like the lab rat thing, you know. So.
I want you to send somebody to watch me work because I'll be hitting my laptop.
Can we keep up? I don't know if we can keep up.
I'm totally. Luckily, I'm not as fast as I am in Photoshop as I talk. So, when you're picking, so it's time to pick new features. Do you say, okay, 25% is going to be for video, 25% is going to be for photography, 25%? Is there any kind of, or is it just?
It starts off with a lot of structure. We also have things like headlights, which I think I've mentioned to you before, which is this opt-in program for seeing where people are going in the app, which tools they're using, which tools they're not using.
So it maps what they're doing?
Yeah, we don't look at their image, but we can tell which tools people are using, which filters people are using. So we're able to sort of construct a heat map of the areas that are the most popular in the application. So for instance, the crop tool probably doesn't come as a big surprise, but the crop tool is the most used tool in Photoshop. We really hadn't touched it in over 2 decades. So we doubled down on the crop tool this time around. We put in over 3 dozen changes because it's used so often.
It's tremendously better. So that came from actually studying what people click on?
Yes.
Right. And it's important to note that it's an opt-in program, and we don't collect any personal information. Right. It's just clicks, like where people are clicking.
No, I think you should collect personal information. All right, let me just see here. I want to ask, is anybody using Zigzag? Come on, anybody? Did anybody ever click on Zigzag one time?
So I'll do some conversational Aikido here real quick.
Just messing with you.
So yes, there are places that people don't go very often, and we found that the filter gallery, a lot of artistic effects, there are 60-something of those. In fact, one of them came up when we were talking to you earlier this morning because you were looking for it, texturizer.
Yeah.
And we realized that somewhere between 1% and 3% of people were using those. Now, this is 60-something strings of text that we felt were kind of cluttering the interface and making it hard to find what you're looking for. So we put 1 call to the filter gallery instead of 60-something calls. Now, occasionally, there's going to be some discomfort because in your case, you're looking for something, where is it? Thought it was there. But in more cases than not, by offloading that, by having less visual clutter, we're able to clean things up. Photoshop tends to just add more stuff each time. So this is the first time that we actually removed things from the menu to sort of clean it up and lighten it up a bit. And that was informed by that headlights data, by seeing that, okay, a pretty small group of people are using all those filter gallery things, and yet they can take up a ton of room. So maybe we could just put that somewhere else and create less clutter.
Hey, I got to say, the UI stuff, though, some of the UI stuff is really brilliant. The lighting effects filter, the way you interact right on screen, I mean, that stuff is amazing. I just kind of love where the whole UI is going.
Right.
I can see that it's almost, I don't want to say that it's iPad-like, but you're not used to reaching on screen onto your image and moving things. And I know that same sliders exist over on the right, but I would rather do it right on my image. I don't know why. It's a psychological thing. I feel like I'm interacting with it. But kudos to you guys on the interface stuff. I think it's really come a long, long way.
I think you actually bring up 2 really good points about the interface, and Bryan brought it up too. One is about decluttering the application. So not only do you see that in Filter Gallery, but also things like Liquify. You know, we find that people are actually only using 2% of that plugin. So why show everybody all the controls you can possibly use in Liquify? So now there's like this advanced mode. So you go into Liquify and things look cleaner and less cluttered, right? And then to your other point about just small design tweaks within the application and moving big plugins and moving features on canvas and in context so that you're controlling things directly on canvas where it matters rather than having to move off to a separate panel to make the parametric changes.
I know, and that stuff's cool. I mean, it immerses you a little further in the program. It's not layers of things. It's all kind of right there.
You see it in Blur Gallery and lighting effects.
Blur Gallery was very well done.
Absolutely, and the zoom pan and zoom that we added a couple releases ago. So
and I'm always real upfront about where ideas come from and where things come from. A lot of people like the dark interface. I would say, obviously, there are a lot of people at Adobe who worked extremely hard to make that happen, but that idea came from right here. You started in with a quiet voice at first saying, could I have a darker interface right around CS3? And I said, Scott, that's a lot of work. CS4, your voice got a little louder. CS5, you're pretty much shouting in my ear.
Come on.
What happened to the dark interface?
It happened, and it looks like it did in 1.0.
Yeah.
Well, I love it, though. And now it's weird when you look back at Photoshop CS5, it seems so dated.
Yeah.
It's like this seems like a very modern interface. And I didn't realize how hard it was to change.
Right.
1,900 icons.
So
1,900 icons. I thought you flipped a switch and just, hey, it's in the bridge. We'll just put it in Photoshop.
So I've got 2 cool little tips if you want to know about the dark UI.
Oh, yes, I do. Absolutely.
You guys will enjoy. So the first one is that we have different preferences, right, that you can use to change the UI, the background.
Right, yeah.
And a cool little tip is if you use Function Shift F1 and F2, you can actually do it on the fly.
Oh, toggling
turning on that light switch.
Ooh, you know what you should call that? Like the time warp. You can go back to Photoshop.
Yeah, exactly. You want to see
CS
like, oh God, the UI is so horrible. It's ugly. Oh my God,
future.
It's amazing. Nothing was changed but the color, but it's amazing. And the other one really cool, it's a cool little Easter egg and a little bit insight of some of the discussions we had around the dark interface. When we initially developed this, instead of having color themes, we actually had the color stops applied to toast. So you had rye toast for the darkest, and you had white bread for the lightest.
Pumpernickel
in the middle. So there's actually a way to get to the toast is. See if I can remember the sure. There we go.
Look, it's toast.
It's toast. So you got the dark UI, you got rye, exactly. The Wonder Bread, right? And then also you have. How do I do that? I can never remember the shortcuts. Coffee.
Coffee.
So we had this fun little discussion that was internally about what we should map the colors of the UI to, what food objects. So we had beans, we had coffee,
like
we had toast,
and
beer, yeah. So that's just a fun little Easter egg.
So I love Easter eggs, and you guys stopped doing those for so long.
That's all you get.
Easter eggs, they're things that programmers put in there for fun. My favorite one, you used to show at my seminar. If you'd launch the splash screen, and after a while, it would start scrolling the list of all the people that work on Photoshop, which that's very humbling just to look at that, see. And at the very end, it would say, and thanks go to our very favorite customer, Scott Kelby. And so I tell the story of how, I'm reading this, this is years ago, I'm looking at it, and it scrolls to the bottom, and it says, special thanks to our very favorite customer, Scott Kelby. And I'm like, all right, thank you. So I called my buddy, I go, hey buddy. I go, Mark, open Photoshop, let it scroll. And I'm sitting there, yeah. I said, what's it say in the last line? He said, thanks go to my favorite customer, Mark Richardson. Whatever name you had the software in, you're their favorite customer. But you took that stuff out. It's heartbreaking, but it's good to see the coffee and toast in here. Hey, we're getting a bunch of questions in. I don't want to ignore everybody because you're really here to be able, you guys are watching to be able to ask them questions. This is an interesting thing. Every time we do an open Q&A like this, not just when you guys are here, but when we do one like for NAPP, we just do an open Q&A, because sometimes we'll just do the Photoshop guys who are answering your questions. I would say that a large percentage of the questions that people ask us that say, why can't Photoshop do this? It's already in the program. Like so often. Kent Fraser asks, oh, that's not the one. There it is. A Fad asks,
this is a good one, too.
Is there a way to open something from Lightroom as a smart object in Photoshop 6?
So I'll throw that one to you, Scott. I know
Sure, yeah, absolutely. So, there you can click on the photo, go up under the photo menu, choose Edit in, Photoshop as smart object. Not just in Photoshop 6, but it also did it in Photoshop CS 5.5 and CS5. So that was already built in.
All right, and so I'll take the next two, and then I'll hand it off to Z.
When it gets hard.
Yeah, when it gets difficult. It's looking kind of scary at the end.
Give me some good questions, and maybe he'll handle it.
Kent Fraser asks, I'm a hobbyist photographer using Lightroom 4. Is Photoshop overkill for someone like me? Well, obviously, I need to know a little bit more about your workflow, but I don't think so at all. They're absolutely complementary. In fact, I wrote a guest blog for Scott, if you were to go to his blog and just Google my name or search my name, Bryan O'Neill Hughes, on CS6 for photographers. And I believe that there are more features for photographers in Photoshop CS6 than really there ever have been, which goes back to our research and all that stuff I was talking about. And I illustrate all of them, and I really break down all of them. And they're very mindful of coming from Lightroom and the sort of things that you would want to do in Photoshop. So yes, ton of stuff there. Scott's got a whole book about that sort of thing as well.
Well, I think, Kent, what would happen is you'll be doing stuff in Lightroom, and Lightroom will do an amazing amount of things, quite honestly. But there always comes this point where you go, oh, I want to be able to do, oh. There's a wall that you hit, at which point, because Lightroom is very good for adjusting your exposure and getting your images looking really, really good. But today in photography, sometimes we want to go way past just fixing our exposure and adding sharpening and things like that. Sometimes we want to do compositing. We want to do things with layers. We want to put multiple photos together. We want to blend photos. We want to do artistic effects. If you look at some of the stuff like Jeremy Coward's things, stuff like that, some of the amazing stuff that's out there, that stuff doesn't happen in Lightroom. Lightroom's the start, it's the birth. But then you're going to actually go from Lightroom, hand it over to Photoshop, do all these amazing things. And then when you're completely done just doing incredible stuff in Photoshop, you do two things. Save and close, and it goes right back to Lightroom, and you just pick up where you left off. So it's kind of a part of your workflow. And I think that if you're already familiar with Lightroom, you're halfway to Photoshop already. Mm-hmm. They share a lot of the same ideas. They share the same camera raw. Right. They share a lot of the same keyboard shortcuts. I think you'd be surprised but you'll know when you're ready to go, because you'll hit that wall where you want to do something a little more creative, you want to do something really, really slick, but you can't do it because you've hit the limits of what Lightroom will do.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and so I'd pull down, there's a free 30-day trial for Photoshop CS6. Pull that down, check out the guest blog I wrote for Scott, and try it yourself. I think you'll love it. Mm-hmm. So for the next one, I'm going to enjoy my opportunity to do this because it's probably the only time I'll get to do this today. I don't normally get to talk about the future. I joke that I have a little Bart collar that goes off and I get a big zap of electricity. Is CS6 going to work with the new MacBook Pros with Retina display? A great question. So if any of you were at the Worldwide Developers Conference earlier this week, Apple's big conference, you might have seen that as they introduced the Retina display MacBook, they showed Photoshop CS6, a screenshot, beautiful screenshot of it running, taking advantage of the Retina display MacBook Pro. So we collaborated with Apple in developing a special build of Photoshop for that. It's not ready yet. We're still working on it. But yes, we are absolutely going to support that. There will be further details in the future, but we're extremely excited about it. Obviously, the sort of people that care about image fidelity and being able to see super high resolution and great color are very, very likely to be spending time in Photoshop. So we're absolutely doing that.
So Bryan, the shipping time for a MacBook right now went from 2 to 3 weeks to 3 to 4 weeks. I heard this
pretty
morning.
quickly.
So if I had ordered one and it comes in 4 weeks, would I be able to use a version of Photoshop that supports the Retina display,
No.
Bryan?
No.
That's where we buzz you.
No.
Oh, no?
But I'm watching the mail just like you are. I'm waiting for the FedEx guy every day,
Okay.
just like you are.
I'm not saying I ordered it. I'm saying
No,
if
no,
I
you didn't
had,
order it.
because
you don't like new
No,
toys
I didn't
or
order it.
anything
My
like
IT guy did. Okay.
Actually, there's a couple questions here
Yeah.
regarding feature requests, like, for example, filters and 16-bit and a couple of other ones. It's a good opportunity to point out some of the portals that we have where you can actually submit your feature ideas. I mean, the question of 16-bit filters, yes, we would like to be able to convert all the filters over to 16-bit, but which ones are the most important to you? Because it's not as easy as flipping a light switch, right? Or turning on the dark UI preference in Photoshop. So it does take a lot of work, and zigzag might not be as important as lighting effects, right? So this is your opportunity to actually head to Photoshop.com. In the product menu at the bottom, there's a customer feedback sub-menu. And when you go to that, it's actually a community forum where you can enter in your feature requests, like, hey, I really want these top 3 features converted to 16-bit, and people can vote on it and people can add comments on it. And we take that very seriously. We have 2 dedicated people on the team who regularly watch that, including Bryan and myself and other people on the team that make sure we're reading about the top requests and seeing how we can possibly integrate it into the application. So.
Okay, here's my vote.
Yeah, what is it?
Well, lighting effects, for one. A lot of them are here. I mean, almost all the stuff in Sharpen, all the Sharpen stuff, all the blur except for Smart Blur.
Right.
Why not Smart Blur?
Bryan, I'm going to throw that one to you.
Yeah, Bryan?
I don't have anyone to throw it to.
Okay, all right, we'll just move on.
Yeah.
Boy, don't you love questions like that? Why not Smart Blur? It's like one thing isn't here. Look, average blur, 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 blur. Smart Blur? No.
Somewhere right now, Chris Cox is sighing.
Yeah.
The reason why we didn't do SmartPaint. This is what I hate about doing this with Adobe. They always have a reason, and when you hear it, it sounds so legitimate, you're like, well, crap. So,
but I didn't.
I mean, nothing's done very arbitrarily with you guys. I mean, you're talking about all the research and the customer feedback that you get and stuff. Today, where can they send feedback? I know you said there's a lot of portals. If you wanted someone to be able to tell you exactly, I need this in Photoshop CS7, where would their first stop go?
Well, I guess my first choice would be to go to Photoshop.com, the community forum, right? Because that's a really lightweight, easy way to just enter in your requests. But there's tons of blogs out there that regularly feed information to us. You know, John Nack's blog, as well as our Photoshop.com blog. Julianne, you know, definitely any of the evangelists or the Photoshop trainers we work very closely with, and they give us feedback too. They give
and
us
I
great
would
feedback.
say, you know, social media as well. It's more of a casual conversation, but we have about a half a dozen people looking at our Facebook page every day. We've got millions of people from all over the world on there, and even shows like this. The last time we were here, you made a few requests, and lo and behold, they ended up in CS6.
It's crazy.
Just like that. You asked for them, and then we put them in there. So we really are always listening. Zorana mentioned before that there are two people that's all they do is listen. Carrie Gushkin and Jeff Tranberry are customer advocates, and that's all they do is just comb the blogs and the forums, and it's really, really valuable service.
Hey, I do want to say something to you guys, because I don't want you to think that they're putting in like features for me personally. So when I come to them, you know, I do this tour, and one of the reasons why I still go out on live tours all over the country when I would rather be playing golf is because for my job, I need to hear what people are struggling with. So when I go out on the road and I meet all these people and they're saying, hey, Scott, you know, why can't it do this? Why can't it do that? When I hear it again and again and again, I'm taking your things, the things that I'm hearing on the road, and telling them. So I don't want you to think that Bryan and Z are sitting around going, hey, Scott, what do you want next? Because it's not like that.
Right.
But when they say that they got them from a visit here, when we get together, we're saying, here's what 70,000 people are asking for in unison.
Right.
So it's not I'm getting my favorite features added.
And I always say that, I know you feel the same way. When I talk to you or Julianne or lots of other folks, I imagine that there are tens of thousands of people standing behind them, because you are out there in front of everybody every day.
Right. And our job, a lot of people don't realize, a large part of our job, we do a lot of things obviously, but is primarily to be a bridge between voices like yourselves or other people out there to engineers. You know, we work very closely with the engineers to make sure that they're hearing what we're hearing from customers, as well as, you know, their own research things that we're working. We're trying to bridge the two constantly. So.
Hey, I want to throw a couple more questions out there. Oh, there's another Retina. Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to throw this one. I don't know if you'll be able to answer this. So part of these questions, I can see they're about the future, and you guys have the collar on for that. Joe B asks, I see from John Nack that Adobe will that CS6 will soon support new Retina MacBook Pros. We now know that will not be in 3 to 4 weeks. But the question is, will Lightroom also soon support new Retina? Have you heard anything about Lightroom, or do you talk to the Lightroom people?
What is Lightroom?
Lightroom, it's a product.
It's a photo, yeah.
It's a good product.
So we share the floor with Tom Hogarty and the Lightroom team. I've heavily involved in Lightroom, love Lightroom. Naturally, people are going to ask about Lightroom. They're going to ask about the video products. I think invariably they're going to ask about all of the products. The only application that we've shown with Retina support at this point is Photoshop CS6.
Wow, that's a very good answer, Senator.
I feel like I've done this before.
Senator,
here.
yes.
You got my same stool.
No, that was really well done, though. That was answered and not answered at all. Okay, Kevin Halliburton. Oh, here's another one we really can't answer. Love the cloud concept. So do we. Any chance we can get a cloud package that bundles Lightroom and Photoshop?
So I think we can sort of answer that one. We have talked about the fact that we do have plans to move Lightroom up there. The way that the cloud works right now is if you subscribe to the Creative Cloud, you get all of our apps, pretty much all of our apps. There's a couple of exceptions, and one of the exceptions currently is Lightroom. But not only do you get all of our boxed apps that we've shipped in the past, the new versions, but you get a couple of apps that you can't get otherwise. You get the touch applications, and you get Muse and Edge as well. So the day where you can get absolutely everything is very close.
Okay, good. That's good. Yeah. Hey, this is a good one. Steve Orth asks, I subscribed to the Creative Cloud for CS6 and installed a new version of it instead of upgrading your old CS5. Well, people would be really freaked out, I think, if you replaced their old software.
Absolutely.
Because they bought CS6 and now you're on the Creative Cloud. You're not like, they bought CS5. If it erased your old CS5, hey, I wasn't ready to get rid of that. But so his question is very good, the one though. How do I get my plugins moved over from CS5 to CS6 without reinstalling them? For example, he says he has the On1 suite and the Topaz suite, both great plugins, by the way.
Do you want to take this one, or do you want me to?
Go for it.
Okay, so one of the things that we can do in CS6 is when you launch, we can actually migrate your preset content over. And that's all of your custom content, brushes, settings, all of that stuff, because that was a complaint is I feel kind of punished when I install a new version because I have to set it up all over again.
You built actions and you built all these things.
All that stuff that you built in. When you do that, if you don't bring the plugins over, and I don't recall offhand if third-party plugins do just migrate over.
They don't.
They don't.
No, they don't.
Because there are compatibility issues with some of those.
Right.
It is as simple as copying those and dragging them over in most cases.
Right.
So you just go to your plugin directory for those
Literally,
other
Right.
take them from the plugins folder of the old one.
Right.
But here's what I would do. I would actually recommend, when I do that, because I want that fresh new one, you can go to On1 suite, or on one site, you can go to Topaz's site, download their latest like downloadable free beta version, not beta version, their demo version, and install it. And it will pick up the, you already have a serial number and all, and you'll have a nice clean install. Right. That's harder than what you recommend, which is just really open up the plugins folder from 5. If you don't want it to leave 5, if you're on a Mac, you would hold the Option key, you can just duplicate it and then take it over and drag it in. So that way you still have the plugin back in CS5. Now you also have it in CS6.
And my experience with those has been that they're constantly iterating. They're constantly coming out with new stuff, usually around the same time that we do. And I should note that in the past there have been some times when plugins weren't compatible because of architectural shifts. Obviously OS 10, PowerPC, 32-bit, 64-bit, things like that. There was not one of those for CS5 and CS6, which is to say if it runs in CS5, it will run in CS6. So no scary incompatibility.
Good. So there wasn't any like big architecture changes that would mess things up?
Not that would mess things up. Things that would speed things up, absolutely, but not that would mess things up.
Lots of people are asking, how did you get the coffee and toast Easter eggs?
Option, Command, and then click on the UI widget.
Option, Command, and click on the little
widget,
widget that's there, the little swatch that they're inside the preferences. Okay,
sure that's what it was.
So that was that. Hey, there's a question.
Yeah, this Christopher Arnold Designs has a pretty good comment there. I like that one. The 3D tools are pretty impressive. I'm glad you think so. How do you envision that evolving in the future? Bzz, updates, can't talk about that. And can we expect any character style animation? But anyways, to talk a little bit about 3D, the initiative of 3D this time was it's an extended only, and it's really targeted for designers and people who don't really know a lot about 3D. We wanted to do things in a more Photoshop way. So if you go and you want to move your 3D object, you don't have to know to, go to the translate tool or the mesh translate tool of the camera. You just get your move tool, right? Because that's what you do in Photoshop. If you want to change the properties of your type tool or your 3D type tool, it shouldn't be a separate thing that you do, right? You should open up your character, your paragraph panels, and adjust the colors or the kerning or whatnot for your 3D type or your 2D type. So that was really the goal of this release. We did a ton of customer research to make sure that we're hitting the right things that people were having problems with. And we wanted to do things in a Photoshop way, make it much more usable. So you're going to notice that usability and performance are the two big focuses that we have. And again, this is actually another question that I was thinking about when I talked about the Photoshop.com forum, as far as character rigging and animation and things like that. That's the perfect portal to start putting in those ideas and what you think, and let us know how you guys are using the 3D features and show us examples. We have tons of community things coming up, sharing images on the Photoshop.com page for 3D imagery. I'm working on a personal website for a digital magazine that I have called Photoshop Dimensions, and on that web page, we're going to start hosting some 3D content that people design, et cetera. So it's people, it's for people who are not accustomed to 3D capabilities and are starting to show us some cool things that they do. So.
All right, hey, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, I guess we have giveaways, believe it or not.
Cool.
So we have giveaways that we're doing at the end of the show. I'll be able to tell you about those in just a minute. But we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to have more questions. We already have more of your questions coming in, and maybe we'll see a tip or two when we come back. Okay? Stick around. We'll be right back right here at our special one-on-one with the Adobe Photoshop product managers. Don't go away. Hey, we are back. Scott Kelby here with Bryan and Zorana, and we're taking your questions about the Photoshop CS6. Hey, we got some prizes. Might as well tell you, so it'll make you stick around. We are giving away, whoa, this is the first time I've seen these, 3 copies of Photoshop CS6. That's insane. Why are we giving that away? Those are expensive as crap. We're giving away a ticket to Photoshop World Las Vegas, full conference pass. Photoshop World is like a big expo and conference for Photoshop World. We host that, we sponsor it. And you guys are there. Your guys are always there.
Always.
Yeah.
Hanging out. Bryan and I always have a traditional breakfast while we're there.
Yep.
NAPP membership. We're going to give away a full year of NAPP, including a subscription to Photoshop User Magazine and a KelbyTraining.com subscription, which is hundreds of online classes on everything from Photoshop to Lightroom to photography to lighting and all that kind of stuff. We're giving away all that on the show here. So if you're thinking, I'm not going to ask any questions, I'm going to leave. Now you're like, I can't leave. They're giving away 3 copies of Photoshop. Let's take some more questions real quick. Let's just take 2 questions, and then we're got to see some tips. How about, let's see. Ooh, Rich Black. That's a CMYK name if I ever heard one. Can we photographers please have stack modes in regular, non-extended Photoshop?
Yeah.
The answer is no. No, is there an answer besides no?
That's the answer. No. So I think a lot of folks want that for, you can stack up images and run median to remove noise or sand or anything that might be blowing through an image. I know astrophotographers use it for long exposures of the night sky. I'll just briefly run us off the road here for a second. When we come up with a feature, we always have an idea of what it's going to be used for. And in the case of the stack modes and all the image analysis, we had a whole idea of what that was going to be used for. It came as a big surprise to us that astrophotographers loved that and that had all of this value in this particular use case. And that does happen from time to time where we think, we envisioned extended as a version of Photoshop that was explicitly not for photographers, that was for a unique group of people. Now, sometimes it can work the other way. So for instance, this time around, we put a lot of effort into video, tons of effort. And I kept saying—
The video is phenomenal.
Thank you. Alan Erickson, you're wonderful. We put a ton of effort into that because I'd say the same thing you do. Whether it's your DSLR or your point and shoot or your phone, you can't buy a device that doesn't render video.
Everything shoots HD video.
Right. Now, video used to be an extended only feature. And so I said, we can't claim that every single person is generating video and have that be an extended specific feature. So that's one of those ones that changed its spots. It used to be an extended feature, and if you ever used it before, it felt like a very precise technical feature. And now it's a feature designed for everyone, especially photographers.
This is going to sound stupid, but it's of all the features, and there's a lot of great stuff in CS6. Video, I think, is the one I'm most excited about, because of that reason. You can't buy a DSLR that didn't have HD video. We're all taking single clips and sticking them on our drive, and now with this built into Photoshop, you don't have to learn a new program to make movies. Now you can make them and you use the same shortcuts and things for it. I think it's brilliant. I really do. When I saw it the very first time, you came and you were showing us before the release, and video was in there. And I kid you not, I was getting up to leave. I'm like, you're showing video? I'm just going to go out in the other room. I'll be back. I got to check my mail and stuff. But I stuck around and I was like this. This is what we've been waiting for. This is exactly what I was blown away. And I sent Bryan a note afterwards and said, hey, this is good, the cropping's great, the wide angle, this is the content aware move, neat. I gotta tell you, I was shocked when I saw the video stuff.
Right.
Because you answered the question that your customers were asking.
Right.
I don't want to learn another program, but I need to do some little video. I need to do a 2 or 3 minute video. I don't want to learn all kinds of other stuff. Can you just make it like you couldn't have made it more Photoshop-like than it is. So kudos to you guys.
Thanks.
Really great job.
Go ahead.
I was going to say video is another aspect of, similar to 3D, where the power of it is definitely in the integration and the features that we have around that area. But the real power of it is the fact that we're in Photoshop and you have all your Photoshop skills and capabilities that you can use on your video layer or your 3D layer, right? You have adjustment layers, you have filters, you have blend modes, all those things that you know how to do.
Yeah.
Exactly, but on that video layer or the 3D layer.
Well, it was brilliant. I think you're going to see more people actually using the feature that they bought. Because I talk to people, they're all so concerned about their video and their camera. Well, that one has H.264, and this one doesn't have that, and this one has audio outside. What do you do with your video? Nothing.
Yeah.
Why are you so concerned? But so many people are really, really concerned about getting the best quality video DSLR, and then they do nothing with it. I think this is going to cause an explosion in DSLR video for the rest of us.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I was one of those people that bought a 5D Mark II and bought Zeiss glass and bought fancy mic and thought, surely this will transform me into a videographer overnight. And you hit the wall when it comes to software. And having the tools that you're used to, whether it's adjustment layers for color or filters.
Free transform.
Yeah, all that stuff. Yep. It's just super easy.
The type tool works like the type tool always works, That's what we were talking about this earlier, is like, if you learn another program, you have to go, well, how do I resize something in here? Or how do I get the type? Or is it even called resize? Is it called something else? All of a sudden you're working in this, you're doing video and you go, I need to resize this. Oh yeah, free transform. This is great.
Yeah.
Hey, let's have a tip real quick. We got some more questions, but how
I'll
about
give you a couple. This is actually a nice segue. So here I've got an image that came off of the GoPro. I recently strapped one of these things to a Porsche and drove it on a back road.
Little tiny
HD camera. Really, really fun. I was showing you that video earlier that was super cool.
That was insane.
That they've got. Maybe that'll end up on your blog. I think that's pretty neat. So anyway, great camera, obviously distorted lens, and I think that's one of those things that we accept about it. But what folks don't know is that we can actually pass this into adaptive wide angle. Now this is a still, because you can take burst JPEGs, 11 megapixel JPEGs, but you could pass video through here as well. And so what I can do in here is, because we know the shape of the lens.
You can do video through adaptive wide angle?
Sure.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, you can do all sorts of crazy
it's a filter, right? I never thought of that.
Yeah.
I'm glad you guys came.
So I do that to the bottom, drop one of these on the top. You can see we know the shape of the lens, and I can tweak this stuff however I like after the fact, but I can straighten out my video and correct it in here. The GoPro is a pretty wild lens, so you have a lot of control over that.
Oh, looks good.
Isn't that neat?
Yeah.
You have to crop it, of course, when you're done.
Yeah, but you know what? With this video stuff, a lot of the time you're going to want to crop it anyway. As I'm sure you've noticed. But really, really fun. And I'm doing a lot of time-lapse stuff with the stills off the GoPro, and Photoshop's really great for animating those stills as well. While we have this still open, I'll mention there's some really cool presets. For people who are into black and white, we licensed a bunch of presets. And what you want to do is go to your gradient map adjustment layer, come in here, and load these photographic toning presets, which I've already loaded.
By the way, these are very good.
Right here, yeah. If you've played around with these are really amazing. I think we live in a one-click world where people are very used to this sort of Instagram, instant satisfaction sort of thing. And you can come in here with these, you can get a really nice look, and because these are adjustment layers, you can come in here and do all sorts of trippy stuff in blend modes after the fact, but you can get some really remarkable looks through those. The other thing I'd show with that is I consider the color lookup stuff to be very engineering and somewhat intimidating, but there are some tremendous preset effects in here as well. So like film stock, I just come in here and right away my image takes on a totally different look. I was applying that to all the video I did from the GoPro and giving it a completely different look really quickly and easily. And again, being an adjustment layer, I can fade it, I can play around with the blend modes with that. Let me just show you one other thing and I'll hand things off to Z real quick. So the other thing is a recent update to Lightroom. Right? Also to Camera Raw, 7.1 and 4.1. And what they do is they allow Lightroom and Photoshop to open 32-bit files. Right. So for people who are into HDR and want to use the power of the Develop module, or the power of Camera Raw in this case, but with much wider dynamic range, what you do is you send your HDR merges over to Photoshop. You go into 32-bit, not 16-bit, which will take away your tone mapping. You just click OK, and what's returned is a pretty flat file like this. But this file is actually a combination of 5 images. And so if I'm here and I pull this down, I'll see that there's actually a ton of data sitting there.
Dramatically more than there would be.
Way more.
Way, way more. RC did a great thing about this. If you go to aboutrc.com, I believe is where he did it. He did a whole demo and he showed the difference between 16-bit editing, HDR, and this is for realistic images, not for ones that you're going to tone map and stuff. But he showed basically how far you can go on 16-bit. You can go literally double as far. Yeah. You can get twice the amount of range on a 32-bit image than you could on a 16-bit image. It's pretty dramatic. If photorealistic HDR is what you're into, like you're shooting architectural interiors or home interiors, things like that, where you really need to capture a wide range, and it's amazing.
Yeah, really powerful. So that's a couple from me. I'm sure you've got some.
Yeah, so I guess I have a couple tips that don't involve fast cars or expensive cars, but but they do involve video and presets, so this is kind of interesting. One of the things you hear a lot about is playback in video, how slow it can be. So there's a couple tips that you can do to increase the speed of the playback in Photoshop. And one of them is simply zooming out. So if you just zoom out to about, with your zoom tool, zoom out to about 540 pixels or so. I'm stealing this one from Julianne. Playback is much faster when you hit the space bar. Things are a lot faster. Another thing that actually slows down the playback in Photoshop is audio. If you do have audio within a track and you just simply turn that off,
yeah, renders
right there, and then it actually goes a lot faster. Actually, this segues nice into the another tip I have is you see this video that I'm playing here, and it's kind of highlighting erodible tips and airbrush paint tools that we've added in Photoshop CS6. And what a lot of people don't know is that if you don't have a tablet or Wacom tablet or pen connected, you can actually go into your presets, your brush presets, and there's this new control here called brush pose. And if you check that, if I look over here to the right, you can see that I can set my mouse to have any of the tilt or rotation or pressure effects that you would get from a pen. So you can actually still use those new brushes.
Cool.
Also, with respect to presets, we have a ton of new presets for brushes. We know that sometimes it's a little intimidating with some of the new brushes that we have and all the controls. And up here in your tool options bar, if you have any of the new brushes selected, like this is the mixer brush, for example, and I pop open the tool preset. Sorry, here we go. Disappeared on me. We have a whole set of new presets that help you get started. They're actually from John Derry. We worked very closely with them. He's a big painter, digital painter, as well as a natural painter, and tons of really great presets. So some of the little things that people don't notice, but definitely I think it's a very welcome addition.
I didn't notice that. Thank you. That's good tip. I didn't know about the zooming out. I knew about the audio thing for rendering. I didn't know about the zooming out tips. So.
And with HDR, as you know, Scott's presets and RC's presets have found their way into the HDR list, so no longer have to go look at your screen capture, plug them all in, and save your own. Yeah.
So thank you for including that. It sure makes my job easier because it's right there. Hey, we've got a bunch of questions coming in, so I want to get to some of them. This is a really good one from Josh P. For future updates of the software with the cloud concept, I want to just stop right there, just for those of you who aren't familiar with what the Creative Cloud is. So you guys introduced something pretty revolutionary. You can now basically use everything that you guys make in the Creative Suite. I mean, Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, Dreamweaver, Flash, and on and on and on and on and on for one monthly fee. Now, I got to ask you a couple of misconceptions. So are they web-based? Is it on my browser?
No,
Nope.
absolutely not.
It's just regular Photoshop, right?
Yep.
You could think the only role that the web plays is it's a closet for all those apps. It's where you keep them. And what's great about that is you can get to them wherever you are. You don't have to tote your disk around with you. If I'm here and I need to set up CS6 or After Effects or something on my machine, I just pull it down off the cloud.
Right.
But once it's down on the cloud, it's on your machine just like regular old Photoshop.
Exactly.
Because I think people think, so I keep them up there and then I use them. They go to the web, and if I don't have an internet connection, I can't use
it. It's not Photoshop running on the web, or
Nothing
where
like
you have
that.
to be connected in order to use your Photoshop. Your Photoshop is still the same. It's just a different way of pulling it down and installing it.
And if you're already like a Photoshop CS5 user, you guys had a ridiculous deal to get in for the first year.
Still do, yeah.
How much is it?
So it's just under $30, $29 for every single app we have.
Yeah, everything Adobe makes,
so
all the creative stuff.
Going back CS3, CS4, CS5, through the end of the year, if you're on any of those versions, you're eligible for that deal. And that gives you everything, and in fact, it gives you things that you can't get in a box, like Edge and Muse and the Touch apps and
Everybody
file
loves
sharing.
Muse.
Muse is awesome.
Man, people are losing their mind over that program. So anyway, that's what the cloud is. So now we'll go back to Josh P's question. So the cloud it's the cloud. Josh says, for future updates of the software with the cloud concept, will there be big major upgrades in the future, like a CS7, a CS8, or will you just gradually add pieces here and there through the cloud?
So
Go ahead.
I mean, in effect, the cloud concept, the biggest value is the fact that we can deliver things to you guys faster, right? We don't have any official plans yet of what that's going to be, but that is the biggest value. We can actually subscribe to it and then start getting updates and features at a more regular basis. And we have, like we mentioned earlier, we have more ways of listening to people. Things are changing really quickly. We hear tons of requests. We want to make sure we can get this out to you as soon as possible.
And the only thing sorry, go ahead.
Yeah,
the only thing I'd change about that is we actually do have really big plans. We just can't share them with you yet.
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah.
But
I think some of the other value of the cloud right now that people don't realize is that things like you can have, you can install on both Mac and Windows. I mean, that was a huge deal. I know a lot of you guys were asking for the ability to have your serial number and install on your Mac machine and your Windows machine at work. You can do that now with cloud. Also, for those of you who like the interface in different languages for multiple language support, you can also do that. You can download the different language packs and you can have your UI in any language. In Photoshop, it depends on the application, but in Photoshop you can definitely do that.
And there are more cloud features that aren't application specific too. There's things that are just for the cloud.
Right. Yep. Like the typekit integration, the ability to use web fonts, and another thing is storage, right? You get great storage and also syncing with certain applications. And that's another misconception is that if you stop your subscription, what happens to all your images on the cloud? Nothing. They stay there, and you still have access to them. You can still launch in with your Adobe ID and have access to your files. You don't lose them. You don't lose the ability to get to them, right? You just stop.
And as with all this stuff, you can do a trial of the cloud, like you can do a trial of any of our apps. Our apps aren't feature deprived at all. If you do the 30-day trial, you get to use the full app, and you can do the same thing with the cloud. You can experience the flexibility of going home and installing these apps, and then going to work and installing these apps, and it's really easy.
It's appy. Anyway, the cloud's a really cool thing. It's been met with really a great response.
Even better than we thought.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it's beyond what you guys had hoped for, because you know what it is? Photoshop, honestly, has been out of a lot of people's reach. I mean, there are people that always wanted to use Photoshop, but they weren't going to be able to plunk down $700.
Right.
And now all of a sudden it's like, so let me get this straight. For $29 a month, I get Photoshop and Illustrator and this, and I get all this stuff. After Effects.
Right.
Yeah.
There are people who would go, I'm never going to be able to own After Effects.
Right.
And all of a sudden, and what if they just want Photoshop? Isn't it like $19.95 a month?
Yeah.
For standard.
$20 a month for Photoshop.
And we should clear up, yes, obviously there are a lot of great reasons, more great reasons than not to do this, but we understand that any sort of change takes people a little while to get used to. So you can still go to the store and buy a box of Photoshop. But if you're upgrading and you want a perpetual version of Photoshop, which is to say you want to own it outright as you have in the past, then you'd want to go to adobe.com and pull down the upgrade of Photoshop, because you can still get the upgrade of just Photoshop at the same discount you always have. It'll ask for your serial number or whatever.
Yeah, just like
validation.
Always. Pretend the cloud
it will
doesn't
work
exist.
like it always did. The benefit to the cloud is obviously price and all those other things that we talked about. But just so you know, you can do it the other way if you want to.
So the cloud is something new that you're offering. You're not replacing everything with the cloud. It's like we have all the same stuff, and for those people who want the cloud.
Yeah.
All right. Hey,
Actually,
the thing about the cloud that you were just saying was, and I don't think people really get this, is that if you guys come out with a great feature today, there was no way in the old method that you could introduce that feature because of accounting rules, right? Because of how things were done with the public company. You could not release that until 18 months later when the next version of Photoshop came out.
Right.
So if you came out with something that was working and it's great today, the cloud customers could get it.
Right.
You could say, I know it's not time for the next one, but here you go.
Right.
So it would be really good to apply what you just said to some of the things that we talked about earlier in this discussion. I'm not
things that are
saying
relevant
that they were,
and
but
important.
upcoming things, cloud. I don't know.
Stuff that will blow your mind. Okay.
We also answered Mickey's question there. I would love to transfer from my HP to a Mac. Unfortunately, I can't afford to repurchase all of my Adobe software. Is there a way I can use PC software on an Apple product? So with subscriptions, you can actually install both a PC version and an Apple version. You still only get 2 installs. Nothing's changed there, but you can actually do cross-platform now.
And so what that means, Mickey, if you haven't upgraded yet, you could be on PC, you qualify for our upgrade path, and you can go to Mac. You can move from one over to the other. Yeah.
All right, let's see. Is there a way to make the Pixel Bender plugin work in CS6? I love this. I like it better than the oil paint filter.
So they like the old Pixel Bender oil paint filter. So the new oil paint filter in Photoshop CS6 is an improved version of the old oil paint filter. So what we did with headlights is we looked at all the different filters people were using, and far and away the most popular Pixel Bender one, which was on Adobe Labs. You had to know about Adobe Labs. It's kind of a speakeasy sort of situation. You had to know where it was. You had to know who to talk to. You had to know how to sneak in. But once people found that, they loved it. So we said, well, let's put that in the app. Now, if we're going to put it in the app, it can't be crashing. It can't be doing weird UI refresh stuff. I would love to know what is missing from the CS5 experience, because I used the CS5 version and it was not ready for prime time. We specifically did not ship it.
We support large files now, where image size, where we weren't supporting that in the past.
But the one in CS6 can do everything that one could do and a lot more, a lot better, and it's much more stable. But if, and I'm assuming that you know something I don't, if there's something that the CS5 one was able to do that you're not able to do, by all means, let us know.
And you did the headlights thing, and the things that everybody was using are in there?
Yes.
Okay, so maybe there was some esoteric thing.
Yeah, we'll want to make sure we capture that if we missed anything.
All right, let's see. Aidin asks, A-D-I-N, is rendering in Photoshop faster than rendering in After Effects? So this is asking about the video?
Yeah, so this is a really, really important. So Photoshop it's a wonderful application, and personally I'm really excited about the video applications and all the stuff that we can do there. We are not a nonlinear editor. We are not an express video application. We do not have the Mercury engine for playback. Photoshop is never going to compete and never could compete with our professional offerings that are constrained for those particular solutions. So if you want the utmost speed, power, and fidelity specific to video, only video, yes, After Effects, Premiere Pro are going to be unparalleled there. Photoshop wears a lot of hats, and we think it does a really good job of wearing the video hat for people who are new to video and using small clips of video.
Like a beginner's application for video, so you can't really compare it to the other stuff.
Yeah, but if you've hit the wall, if you've outgrown Photoshop's video, and I think some people will, I definitely encourage you to pull down the trials of Premiere Pro and After Effects.
Blazeman asks, where can we get a complete list, complete in all caps? So it's really like this. Where can I get a complete list of shortcuts for Photoshop?
All right, do you guys make one of those?
Here's the thing. I'm glad you asked, Blademan, whoever you are. So I'm releasing a thing. Well, by me, I mean us here at NAPP. It's a book, but it's a digital book. It can be an app, it can be on Android or whatever. Called Shortcut Sumo. Shortcut Sumo. And basically it is a really, really, really slickly designed. It can only be done in a digital version. You could never do this in a book. Of every keyboard shortcut, not just for Photoshop, but for Lightroom and stuff like that, other Adobe. It's called Shortcut Sumo, the biggest, baddest collection of Adobe shortcuts ever. But it's not just that it's a list of shortcuts. It's how it's done. It's very, very slick.
Cool.
Can I pre-order one?
Yes, you may. But it's anyway. Ooh, Brad's like making clicking in his tongue. We got to get more questions here. So let's see. We talked about that one.
Mayo, 326.
Hey, there is an Adobe Creative Cloud YouTube page. That surely sounds like there would be, doesn't it?
Surprised at all if there were. Although that's a good opportunity for me to say, oh, YouTube, let's talk about YouTube. There certainly is.
Wow, there it is.
There is a Photoshop YouTube page, and we're regularly putting content up there. And there's a Photoshop Facebook page that we're really active in. We push a lot of things through. Twitter for Photoshop as well. So we're really involved in social media, extremely involved in it.
Yeah, there's a lot of channels actually for the different products and initiatives at Adobe with YouTube. So definitely, as Brad pointed out, go to the Adobe Creative Cloud and search for that on the YouTube page, and you'll find a bunch of.
If you go to youtube.com/user/Adobe Creative Cloud, you'll find it there. I just happen to know that off the top of my head. It's not written over on a board there. If that's what you're thinking, that is no way there. Thank you, Brad. There was another question I wanted to get to here. Can I change the UI background color to any RGB value? That comes from Jeff Burkholder.
So you can change the true background. You can come over here and control click and then hit custom.
The canvas background.
Yes, so the background. You can go absolutely crazy and make that as ugly as you want. As far as the UI itself goes, you have 4 choices, which is 3 more choices than you used to have. But no, you can't you can't reskin the app yourself. Or
By the way, that's a great prank to pull on somebody else like that has a copy of Photoshop. Swing by their copy of Photoshop, right-click on that canvas area, and change it to like a bright red. Because if you don't know that trick, good luck finding how to fix that. They'll basically, and you come by and they go, dude, everything's red here. Oh, you've got the red canvas virus. That's not good. That's not good. All righty. So the question is, what's the ETA on the Shortcut Sumo? It's in production right now. Approximate price is going to be cheap as anything. So with approximate price, it's really, really cheap. So cheap, you'll go, oh, I got to buy that. It's like coffee. What's the ETA on it? It's in production right now. So it's not quite out, but it'll be out very soon. And it has some great little audio things. You click on it and it says, Shortcut Sumo! It's got all these kind of little stupid things in it. They're just for fun. But the interface is what's so cool about it. And you can do things with an app that make finding shortcuts, because this won't be the first shortcut book ever written on Photoshop, right? I mean, people have done it before, but so I tried to come up with a way that would be very, very different, and it's very, very different. Right. You would never do it in a print book, but you can so do it in an app that works for your phone, that works for an iPad, that you can use digitally on your laptops.
Yeah.
Right.
Shortcut Sumo. All right, hey guys, we've like completely run out of time, and we could do this all day long. Can you leave us with like one extra last tip or something? Come on, you guys are loaded
Sure,
with
there's
tips
always
here.
tons of stuff. I'll mention that we've done what's called the JDI list, Just Do It. And that initiative actually began with you guys way back when, leading up to CS5. We did about 36 of them for CS5, and we did twice as many for CS6.
What is a JDI? So we know what it means, just do it. But what is that?
So it's a feature that can be implemented and tested in a week or less. So, and I'm counting on you to find a good one, a great one while I talk about it, while I tee it up.
Well, Hairstyles is a perfect one, right?
And so the first time around, we had the team set aside time to work on it. And the next time around, we said, okay, well, let's let them do it on their own and come up with what they want. And they ended up doing twice as many. And they're all directly responding to user feedback. So, someone calls up and they say, if I have a 16-bit file and I try to save it as a JPEG, I can't. It drives me crazy. And, well, I might know that I have to push it down to 8 bits to save it, but, that takes time. Or if I don't know, how would I know that? Right. Little things like that, removing speed bumps. And so dozens of those. So
this is just an example of one of those JDIs. In layer styles, we hear this repeatedly, right? You go into your layer styles dialog, and there's a certain setting that you use all the time. You can just say, make default right here. And that actually remembers the current settings as a default, because I know a lot of you don't, have whatever red is your first stroke color.
The stroke
take a look at like outer glow, for example, right? So outer glow, look at the glow color. There's two problems here. Number one is beige. Nobody's ever in the history of glows wanted a beige. But look, what's worse is go up a little further.
Sorry.
It's set to screen mode.
Right.
So almost no matter what you add it to, you'll never even see there is a glow until you change the mode to normal. This way, you can switch it to normal. Right. You can switch it to a color someone might actually use. Make it the default, and the next time you come here, it's right where you want it.
And so here's the history of this feature. So we were doing a bunch of research, CS5, and we said, you know what, let's start with looking at changing stroke. We had changed, everybody said, why is stroke red? That's ridiculous that stroke is red. The stroke should not be red, it should be black. Right, everyone says it should be black. So we changed it to black, and we thought, the war's over, everything's fine. And then all the people who thought it shouldn't be black, which were like 27,000 people, came out and said, it should be gray, it should be yellow, it should be beige. And we got to thinking, no matter what we do for any of these, it's going to bother someone. Someone's going to love it the way it was. Someone's going to hate it the way it is. And so we realized we need to let people change to their own default. So huge time saver if you're spending a bunch of time in these places.
Yeah. But I want you guys at home to understand something about the way not just engineers at Adobe work, but engineers of the world, software engineers work. When they've created something and it's in like CS4, the engineers want to do the cool next new stuff. They don't want to go back and fix stuff from 3 things ago, which is why I think the JDI thing is so important, that you guys are willing to go back, that the engineers realize this is stuff that people, like we created layer styles. When did layer styles come out? See, Photoshop 5?
4 or 5?
This is before CS.
5,
Like Photoshop 5, not CS5.
5.
Yeah.
5. There used to be numbered like 5, 6, 7. It stopped at 7. But in Photoshop 5, and it's like nobody wants to go back to Photoshop 5 and go, I'm going to make this better. but they did.
Yeah.
And that's what's really cool, that they go back and they're trying to make, so that's why I always tell people, I'd say, well, you always say to upgrade. And I said, you know why? Because even if you don't see any new features that you want, every Photoshop is a better Photoshop, because every time they go back and fix things that just make your experience better. How many things did you fix in CS6 that were not new features? How many JDIs were there?
65.
65 things in photo. And you know what's funny is because you don't know them all at first, and all of a sudden you go to a dialog box, you're like, oh,
Right.
oh, I can't believe they finally did that. There's a checkbox. I mean, there was a couple of times where I was the happiest guy in the world, where there was something in there that I never thought would be there, and you on your own went and fixed it. And it's some engineer that wants to be doing something cool and new. That gets,
right.
They want to be doing the next content-aware move. They want to do but they stop taking the glory. They go back and fix something that may not be the flashy thing,
Yeah.
but it's something that you're making our experience in Photoshop better. You added 67 things before the first new feature that made Photoshop better. I would have paid for the 67 things.
Yeah, it's true. You know, we were excited because we're able to say we have 62% more new features than CS5. Huge stat, impressive stat. But for a lot of people, it's the JDIs. It'll be the one JDI that
Right.
saves them an hour a day or 2 hours a day, or just makes their life easier, where it's
Right.
like, you know what, I didn't need to know any more than that. You got me.
Yeah, like I heard that, blend modes on multiple layers. Like that's huge. I've heard a bunch of people say, I will buy CS6 because you can now add a blend mode on multiple layers. Or layer styles on groups. That's also huge. I mean, you can imagine how long that takes. You have to select
one
each
time.
layer, do it one at a time. Now you can just select them all or group them and then add that blend mode or style. So.
You know, it's funny. I remember when this is probably going back to Photoshop 4 or 5. So this is way back then. You guys wouldn't remember it because you're all young whippersnappers. But back then, when you wanted to rename a layer, you would double click, it would bring up a naming dialog box. You would type in the new name, click OK, and it was done.
Mm-hmm.
And then at one point, you guys made it just double click and rename.
Photoshop 7.
I remember, was it Photoshop 7? I remember the first time I showed that to an audience. Because I'm showing all this amazing stuff, and look, it's, like, what is it, vanishing point. You're showing all this crazy stuff that's blowing their mind. And the crowd's like, oh, that's good, that's nice. I showed, oh, and by the way, you can rename a layer just by clicking on it. Spontaneous applause breaks out through the whole audience, because that's how much that stuff means to us.
Yeah.
Because I may only use vanishing point once every 2 weeks, but I rename layers 25 times a day, 50 times a day. Sometimes if it's a bad project, 100 times a day.
Yeah.
So the fact that you guys do that JDI concept, I want you guys to realize what a sacrifice it is for the engineers to stop doing the cool thing, to go back and do the important thing. And I thank you on behalf of 70,000 NAPP members and everybody watching today.
We'll get you the
that
full
you guys
list
do that stuff.
for your
Yeah,
blog.
this is great.
Oh, that'd be
we can
good. I love
share
the list.
The comprehensive list.
Yeah.
But absolutely, it's been really exciting.
Well, Zorana and Bryan, thank you guys for
Thanks.
taking the time. Thanks to everybody that did this. We're going to have a real quick drawing here. Let's see. Here we go. All right, so there's a registration form. So it says one-on-one. See a little one-on-one webcast thing that you're seeing right there. Go ahead and click on that thing. Click on it. We're going to show you where to click right here. Click-a-rooney. Registration form. Click-a-rooney. Look, there's all the stuff right there where you enter your name and your email address so we can contact you if you've won. And we'll be giving away all those incredible prizes. And by the way, Winston wasn't able to make it. His picture's on the page, but he wasn't able to make it. He had a really important golf game. And so it was a really nice course. It's very, very hard to get on Pebble Beach. And so, he got called away on some important business. We very disappointed that he wasn't here today because he's a terrific guy. But I got to say, you guys covered for him pretty darn well.
Thanks. He was bummed he couldn't be here. I'm
Oh,
sure
I know
he'll
he
join us
was.
next time.
He's such a great guy.
Yeah.
And we were disappointed that he's not here, but you guys showed up in a big way.
Happy to be here.
Enter the contest. I hope you win a copy of Photoshop CS6. And remember, if you think, I've already got CS6, that is why God invented eBay. All right, guys, thanks on behalf of us and Bryan and Zorana.
Thank you.
guys.
Thanks,
Take
guys.
care, everybody.
Bye.